It's been now, what, 6 years since you published The People versus Democracy? How do you think the book stands now?
Well, I think that, at the time, I argued that populists were a serious threat to democracy. And I argued that this was not just a passing moment in politics, but that it would last for a long time. And I think both of those predictions have sadly proven true. We saw in the United States and Brazil that even democracies that were supposedly quite consolidated, supposedly quite stable, could suffer significantly from the rule of populists. And we're now seeing populists undermining democratic institutions in places from India, the largest democracy in the world, to smaller places like Hungary. I do think that as well, but we've had some piece of good news in the last 10 years. And that's that even when these populists win, and even when they get to power, and even when they're able to damage democratic institutions, our systems can be reasonably resilient as well. And so we've seen, some of these populists lose power, and some of the democratic institutions being strengthened again in a number of places, including in the United States and Brazil. But that's not the end of the story. In the United States, for example, it looks very likely that Donald Trump will be back, will win the election in November, and will be living in the White House again from January 20th, 2025. So I think we're still in the middle of the story that I started to describe in the book.
What do you believe will be the impact of a second Trump presidency to the American democracy?
So I think that there's reasons to think and to fear that it's going to be worse than the first. When Donald Trump was elected in 2016, he did not have full control of the Republican Party, many parts of which were quite hostile to him. He did not have a deep bench of ministers and loyalists and aides who actually believed in his ideas. And he had very little experience governing, and not a lot of ideas of how he wanted to transform American institutions. This time around, all of that has changed. He now has complete control over the Republican Party. He has a much larger number of loyalists who have proven that they're willing to do his bidding, and who've gathered genuine experience in government in the first 4 years. And he's coming in much more determined to sweep aside any roadblocks on his exercising power. He's much more convinced that he alone represents the people. He should be able to do what he wants. And the thing he hadn't realized earlier, there's all kinds of institutions that stand in the way of that, because that's not how power works in a democracy, because there is actually a separation of powers and roadblocks on what even a duly elected president can do. And he's, I think, determined to change it from day one. Now, at the same time, we have seen the resilience of American democracy. We've seen how rambunctious the media is. We've seen how hard it is to get control of all institutions. We've seen the reserves of power in the federal states. And so I'm not imagining that a second Trump presidency would be the end of democracy. I think we have to stop thinking of democracy in ones and zeros. We have to stop thinking that a country is either a perfect democracy or flips immediately into a dictatorship. And I think what we'll see in a second Trump term is a further deterioration of the quality of American democracy, not necessarily an end to it.